Something has recently been uncovered. Something that we have no reason truly to believe. But if it does turn out to be real, then it has the possibility of reshaping our past, our present, and dare I say, even our future.
That's right, today we are talking about Pokemon Z2A and the supposed leaks that have been floating around the internet lately. I'm the Thesterninator, welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a prospective look at what types of Pokemon we may see coming out of Pokemon Z2A based on these leaks. Now, leaks have never been something that are super rare to the Pokemon franchise. Each time that a game comes out, we get leaks left and right. Sometimes they end up being true. But this leak, especially in consideration of the fact that we haven't seen a ton of stuff coming out yet, feels a little bit more legitimate. It may not be, but it feels that way. Especially because Pokemon seems to be keeping this game very close to the vest. We don't know who our starters are, we don't know who our legendaries are, we've got nothing. And that leaves it to artists like me to come in and try to figure out what we can from what little information we've received. So what do we know? We have some information here about some of our starters. We also have some information about legendaries and ride Pokemon, but we'll get into that later. Our starters, as we understand them, look to be Superior, Blaziken, and Feraligatr. So let's go ahead and start with one of these Pokemon. My favorite is Feraligatr. Always has been, always will be. And I wanted to tackle that first. Should be pretty easy. Like I said, Feraligatr is my favorite Pokemon, if not one of the top 5 favorite Pokemon I've ever had. I remember that my first time playing a Pokemon game, it was actually Pokemon Gold, and I found out that you could clone Pokemon. You could cheat the system a little bit. Well, what better than by cloning my starter Pokemon? I'll clone my Feraligatr, make a team of 6 Feraligatr, and take on the Elite Four. And it was fantastic. 6 Feraligatr, each with their own individual names. Don't ask me to tell you what they were, I do not remember. And I did great. Until I went up against, I don't recall if it was an Ice type, a Grass type, something of the like, and things went downhill fast, much like when I was trying to design this Pokemon. I went in super confident, knowing exactly what I wanted to do. We know that it's a Knight, we know that it's going to be Steel type, we know that it's going to be Water type, and we know that it's going to be a Feraligatr. I went in and immediately lost it all. I did not know what to do. Can I draw Feraligatr? Absolutely. Can I draw Fakemon? Of course. Can I draw a Fakemon that takes into account all of these aspects while still being something cool that I enjoy as much as my favorite Pokemon? Yet to be determined. So I went in, and you can see me kind of going down the line here. Okay, let's give it a big jaw. I want to give it a big jaw because I felt like that would really emulate the idea of a Knight's mask while still allowing us to have the big jaw Pokemon, Feraligatr. I immediately scrapped that. Once I saw it, I thought, this just looks like an old man. Let's move on. I'm going to be real disappointed if the actual version ends up looking anything like the design that I scrapped, but I played along with this for quite some time. I eventually decided I wanted something a little bit sleeker that kept that young look to it. I wanted Feraligatr to feel rebellious. I wanted it to feel energetic, the way that Croconaw and Totodile do. But as I began to think about that and look at the other options that we had to go along with, I got really confused, really frustrated, and boy, this took me a little bit longer than I initially anticipated. You see, when you have these versions, these different forms from the historic points of Pokemon, there's almost no rules. I kept thinking of Hisuian Decidueye, which is terrifying to have to say, and I'm surprised I got it on the first shot. But Hisuian Decidueye looks nothing like regular Decidueye. It breaks all the rules, even from its previous forms. It doesn't look like them, but at the same time carries over that same motif. We go from having these whites and greens and little bits of seedling brown to suddenly being autumn colored and fall themed almost. It blew my mind. How are we supposed to take these things into account when they don't even take themselves into account? I played with this idea for a long time, and if you watch me drawing here, you can see there are a lot of instances where I am just trying to do what feels safe. Okay, let me focus on the stomach, let me focus on the legs, because I don't want to get to that big javelin type thing that I initially designed. Let me play with the face, go back and forth between which face I prefer more, and I found that this was probably my greatest challenge yet. How do I make it work? How do I make it something that seems fun, captures the energy of one of my favorite Pokemon, but still takes into account all of the inspiration from the leaks and is allowed to be different while still looking the same? I don't know, and I don't know if I did it properly. All I know is the best that I could do was come up with a design that I enjoyed. So I thought, where are we going to get the armor for this guy? Where are we going to get something that makes it feel like a knight, something that makes it feel like a steel type? And I was designing and playing around with it when at some point I realized Feraligatr has these like chunks on its arms and knees and throughout its body. Those chunks are a great opportunity to advance them into something like armor. I didn't have to take away the frills. I didn't have to take away much of the body shape. I ended up changing it anyway, but I was able to take what was already there and evolve it. So that's what I did. I also looked at some of the colors, which you'll see later, and played around with those a lot. Again, a lot of decisions were made that I regretted immediately or regretted after doing way too much work towards them and ended up moving to something else. But I ended up playing around a lot with this concept of him being a knight and taking that full into account. I ended up even trying to scrap this javelin at one point and decided, no, we're too far in. We've committed at this point. I have to do something with it. And I think towards the end, the colors really sell the idea, but man, did it take us a while to get there. I have people a lot ask, hey, do you have any tips on drawing Pokemon, whether that be in Reddit or in the YouTube comments? And my words of wisdom on that, I guess, are fail. Keep going, fail, allow yourself to mess up, and just try again. Because on here, I ended up going with what I felt was almost like a biker aesthetic. I really fell in love with that idea of like, what if he's big and bulky, and it almost looks like he's wearing a leather jacket? Ooh, that'd be cool. But it doesn't satisfy the prompt. I really dropped the ball and had to pick it back up and try again, and then ended up being really happy with what I got. One of the decisions that I made first, and I felt really confident about, and I still do, is going from that bottom-heavy type design to a more lithe body. I feel like Pokemon now in design tend to go that direction. They tend to feel a little bit more sleek over bulk. I mean, if something's bulky, they go the way of making it extremely bulky. If something is sleek, they go the way of making it extremely sleek. And I wanted to capture that as well. I wanted to make him feel more agile. After all, he's supposed to be a knight. He's got to be more agile. I played with the idea, like I said, of the head because I was so worried about losing that big jaw, but I feel like there was a happy medium struck, keeping it very prominent and giving it a shape that allowed it to feel almost like the wings that you would see on some knight's armor, making it feel powerful, but no longer the focal point of the design. I think that's something that the Hisuian forms really took advantage of, was taking what was initially a focal point of the original designs and taking a secondary part that was still important to them and evolving that instead. So characters like Typhlosion have this big, wide stance, which was instead transformed into this lowly and kind of calm stance, and bringing that fire from being this explosion to being soft and wispy. Same thing with Decidueye, like I said, and then Samurott having a much more energetic feel to it. It almost took the flip-flop of what we saw with Typhlosion, where it went from being this peaceful type of character to feeling like darker and feeling much more stark. And that was something that I got to play with, and I'm glad that I played with it as I did with this design. I love the idea of bringing in that armor and getting to utilize those plates in ways that we hadn't seen them before, because they kind of just appear on Feraligatr and don't have a ton of purpose other than just breaking up the shapes. But here, we were able to give them purpose, be able to make them feel a lot more like they belonged, and like this was the aspect that evolved instead of that jaw. I feel like it worked, and I'm happy with what we ended up with, as much as I fought myself the whole way through. And yeah, I even like that javelin that I fought so hard to try and get rid of. And here we have it. This is, for a temporary name, Colossian Feraligatr. I wanted to keep a lot of the stats the same way that they were, much like the Hisuian versions did to their counterparts, and really play up some of the more eccentric parts of the design. I made sure that the shiny maintained pretty much to what it was before. It even actually has the same height, but adding in that steel type, I never realized how much that Feraligatr felt like it needed that. I love this design and I'm excited to do more, but I guess that's really not up to me. Let me know in the comments, do you want to see more of these leaks turned real so that we can look back and compare how close we were? Or if the leaks were even real in the first place, how much we wish that something like this could have happened. I hope that this happens, so let me know in the comments. You can also find me across different social medias like Patreon, Discord, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. We have a really fun Discord community that's been growing exponentially, linked down in the comments. You can also find some of my designs that I ended up drawing and getting rid of in Ko-fi. So you can actually buy designs that I did that would have otherwise ended up in the burn pile. Commissions are always open, and you can grab a commission through Ko-fi as well. If you become a $5 member, you can get a discount on commissions at, I believe it's 15%. So you can hit me up there, and in the meantime, it sounds like you know where to find me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.